So trouble maybe with the Philadelphia Eagles. A.J. Brown, with the controversy with him complaining about the passing style of the team, the lack of, I should say that, and also too with the news about Brandon Graham as well, putting out the trouble, the relationship between the Hurts and A.J. Brown, not as great as it was in the beginning. He soon after apologized a few minutes ago about putting those comments out there, but still, then it was put out there. And now we have to talk about the discussion about the passing game, what's going on with that. Is there an actual issue with Jalen Hurts, and what it is? So you see on the screen here on the New York Post, kind of basically summing up on here, really the second paragraph, passing. The three-time Pro Bowler told reporters after totaling 4 receptions for 43 yards and a 22-16 victory, it was only 4 targets of the game. So now let's break down A.J. Brown's stats for the season. So right now he has 48 catches for 836 yards, 4 touchdowns. The touchdowns are a little bit lacking. He did have a lot towards the beginning of the season. The last 7 games he's played, he only had 1. In the 10 games he's played, he has 4 games over 100 yards receiving. Once again, most of that kind of happening in the beginning half of the season. But he has one recently, a couple weeks ago against the Rams, 6 catches for 109 yards and a touchdown. The last 2 games have been lacking, especially again for the Carolina game, 4 catches for 43 yards. We look at Jalen Hurts with his passing style, as well as of late too. It's been a little bit left to be desired, especially in the Carolina game. Only 108 yards on 21 attempts, 118 the week before on 19 attempts, and 179 and 22 attempts the week before against the Rams. For Hurts, since the season, for 12 games, he has 6 of them, which is around under 200 yards. Again, the last 3 showing that he's had 5 games over 200 yards or more, and only 1 game of 300 yards. But it's, is there really an issue with the passing game with this? And for me, it's no. Would you like to see the numbers, especially the last few games, be higher? Sure. Especially for the money that Hurts is getting paid and the stature and what people perceive Hurts to be. But this is not a heavy passing heavy offense. We have to really realize that. That's what A.J. Brown has to realize. Why the stats are so low, especially as of late? Well, it's because of the obvious with Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is a MVP favorite, or at least up there, top 3 at least if you want to say. He is playing absolutely amazing. He's certainly going to be Offensive Player of the Year at the very least. You see on the bottom there, 266 carries for over 1,600 rushing yards, 11 touchdowns. He also adds 267 receiving yards on with 2 touchdowns. He's been amazing, averaging 6.1 yards per carry. And you see the last few games, the Rams had over 255 rushing yards, 9.8 yards per carry. He had 107 yards against Baltimore, 124 against the Panthers. And you see the last 4 games, he's had over 20-plus carries in those games as well. And you see in games prior, 27 attempts on Jacksonville, 22 attempts on Cincinnati, 22 attempts against Atlanta, 24 carries against Green Bay. This is what the identity is of the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's working. Obviously, you look at all the wins. They are on a 9-game winning streak. Absolutely phenomenal for what they're doing. This is what they're leaning into, and this is what they should be leaning into. For the comments, to the certain point, I do agree they have to be a little bit better, especially come playoff time, because that is something that is going to be challenged a little bit. What happens when Saquon Barkley is not getting those 6-point yards per carry, and he's getting slowed down a little bit, like in the Cleveland game when they still won? He only averaged 2.6 yards per carry, which was the worst game of the season thus far for him. What happens if you run into someone like that and you have to lean a little bit heavier into the passing game? That is a question we'll see, especially looking back to last year with the playoff collapse, and especially towards the end of the season, the collapse they had after starting 10-1 on the season. But I'm going to say this is a selfish comment by A.J. Brown, and maybe a lot of people agree with this. This is selfish. Even when Jalen Hurts throws, it's mostly to A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is the undisputed wide receiver 1, even though you have a phenomenal Devontae Smith. No question A.J. Brown is better than Devontae Smith. But you look at what Hurts, when he throws, he's productive. Again, it may not be the numbers that you like, but he plays well when he has to be. And I know there's some people complaining about, as of late, even Philadelphia fans saying they need to, I've seen some that say they need to get rid of him, get a new quarterback, which is absolutely ridiculous. Jalen Hurts is a great quarterback, and what you see his stats, it's amazing this year. Almost 70% completion percentage, 68.3 to be exact, 102.4 passer rating, a 65.2 QBR. It's just, and if you want to look at that from Pro Football Focus, where he ranks with all that, he is 14th in passing touchdowns, 20th in passing yards, and 36th in interceptions. One of the better quarterbacks with the interceptions as well. Again, going back to A.J. Brown, he has, again, 40 catches, 836 yards, 4 touchdowns. If you want to see where he ranks that as well, he's 35th in receptions, 15th in receiving yards, 32nd in touchdowns. But again, Jalen Hurts is productive when he has to, and even when he does throw, you look at the targets and such. Most cases, A.J. Brown is the go-to guy, especially with Goddard out now. I think no doubt those targets and those catches are going to ramp up a little bit. Again, you also have to factor into what Devontae Smith as well. He's also definitely one of the better wide receiver 2s in the league, or maybe you can argue on some teams the wide receiver 1. But A.J. Brown has to realize that this is not the identity of the Philadelphia Eagles. It is the running attack. Even when you go back to Jalen Hurts on the right-hand side, what is MO? He has over 500 rushing yards on the season, 13 touchdowns. Now people joke about the tush push and him getting 1-yard touchdowns, but this shows you what the identity is. It is the running attack of Jalen Hurts and the touchdowns in the red zone. It's Saquon Barkley with his running attack. This is the identity that the Philadelphia Eagles are, and this is what they should continue to lean into. This is what they're productive on. And going back to Saquon Barkley, these stats here, this is what they should lean on into, and this will no doubt carry them throughout the playoffs, as they should. They should lean on to him. He's having a McCaffrey season like last year. We saw what the 49ers did, how amazing he played last year, got him all the way to the Super Bowl. This is almost, to me, identical, a similar build. You look at last year, they had Ayuk and Samuel, George Kittle, McCaffrey. This year they have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Barkley, Dallas Goedert, if you want to throw them in there. It's a similar built offense. Both, good offensive lines as well. The only difference is, of course, the playing style with Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy, but it's a similar instance where they should heavily lean into this, and you would want to, because outside of the Detroit Lions, you have an easy path to the playoffs. The only team you have to worry about is the NFC Championship game between the Lions, and that's why I predict it's going to be the Eagles and the Lions in the conference championship. Depending on how it's going to line up, we assume it's going to be 1 and 2 for the seeding for that. Outside of that, you are going to demolish anyone else there. The gap between the Super Bowl caliber teams in the NFC versus everyone else it's a huge gap. But you only have to worry about the Detroit Lions. You have a cakewalk in the wild card game, the divisional game most likely as well. Again, it's only up to the conference championship that you would really have to, that it will truly be tested. And then maybe if they do lose, that argument's going to come back to, well, Jalen Hurts needs to throw better. There needs to be a better passing game. But until then, this is what the identity is, and as it should be, because there's a good chance that you guys can get back to the Super Bowl once again and probably win it all because of what Saquon Barkley has done. Again, he is a MVP caliber player, and he's certainly up there for the favorites to win it, outside, of course, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Who else you want to throw up there? Jared Goff, too. It's very selfish for A.J. Brown. Again, I get he's frustrated because he wants his numbers, he wants the touchdowns, he wants the catches, but at the same time, it's working. You're on, again, a 9-game winning streak. You're one of the best teams in the NFL. Keep going with this. Keep going. And I promise you, if it gets stopped or there's problems with the running game, you are going to be the go-to target for that one. So A.J. Brown should not be worried at all about this. The only thing that's going to stop the Philadelphia Eagles from going all the way or going far into the playoffs is stuff like this internal conflict with this and the back and forth, and especially again going back to Brandon Graham. We talk about the relationship is not what it used to be. I don't want to make it the same case as T.O. and Donovan McNabb, but it's almost a similar suit. I don't want to say it's just as bad as that, but it's just stuff like that can really wreck a team, and it's very unfortunate for if you look at it for the Eagles fans, especially for the Eagles players, that they're having such an amazing season, and something so dumb, something so small like that could really wreck the season potentially. And I'm not saying it's going to, but it's just something that you don't want that to happen. That's the only thing that's truly going to stop the Eagles this year from going potentially all the way to the Super Bowl. Is just some small things like that. Outside of that, if they can take care of that. Again, you only have one team in front of you, and they have a good chance of beating the Detroit Lions, with them especially being hurt on the defensive side. And they can, obviously, and the Eagles' defense is absolutely phenomenal this year, and they can definitely challenge the Lions' offense. The Lions defense is struggling with, not struggling, but they do have injuries on that side, especially, part with Aiden Hutchinson being out. They can take full advantage of that. So I don't think A.J. Brown should let someone like that be worried. I get it's a little embarrassing, if you want to say, because you barely beat the Carolina Panthers, but it happens. And I know it's the standard's much higher than just beating them barely. A 3-win team, but they're going to bounce back. You had an impressive win against the Baltimore Ravens, 24-19. Washington, however you may feel about them, they still have a winning record, 26-18. Cincinnati Bengals offense is amazing. They've won 37-17. So that you do have and the Packers from week 1, 34-29. So you do have impressive wins on there. Don't let this small instance ruin it all. Again, maybe it's not the best performance by the Philadelphia Eagles, but they're going to bounce back, no doubt, from this game, and they'll continue on what they're doing. Saquon Barkley is going to keep doing what he's doing. Jalen Hurts is going to keep doing what he's doing. And trust me, A.J. Brown, you are going to have over 1,000 yards receiving. You may not like the touchdown production, but you're still going to be the go-to target on this offense. So don't be so caught up on the passing game. It is going to work itself out when it needs to, and it will come in handy when it has to. So don't worry too much about that.